PopCap is a well-known studio, mostly known for making Plants vs. Zombies. Not a lot of people know about the many other original games that came out before Plants vs. Zombies. PopCap primarily made smaller casual games for the PC market, and while some of those stand out for being more well-known than others, some games are quickly forgotten about and fell deep into obscurity. The one I'd like to talk about today is called Iggle Pop, a niche Pac-Man inspired game that deserves to be remembered. Now I guess I actually have to explain this game because apparently normal people don't know a lot about obscure computer games from 20 years ago. Well, maybe you should. Not much is known about Iggle Pop. It doesn't have a huge dedicated Wikipedia page like other PopCap games, mainly Plants vs. Zombies, Peggle, and Bejeweled. So unfortunately for me, I gotta dig a little deeper. Iggle Pop was published by PopCap in 2006, but it was developed by Sprout Games. Again, not much is known about Sprout Games either. According to the Wayback Machine and Sprout Games' old website, Sprout Games is responsible for Feeding Frenzy and Pizza Frenzy, as well as Color and Word Harmony. Some sources, including PopCap's own website, include Feeding Frenzy 2 as well, but the credits for that game don't seem to mention Sprout anywhere. Anyway, Sprout was eventually acquired by PopCap and their website redirected to PopCap's website's Sprout Games page. It seems Iggle Pop was made before the acquisition, but it was made with help from PopCap. There isn't really a dedicated credits section in the game, so it's hard to tell who actually worked on it. I found this on Moby Games, but without in-game credits, it's hard to verify if this is accurate. So we don't really know anything at all about its development history. PopCap's new page on the EA website doesn't even mention Iggle Pop at all, but one thing we do know about Iggle Pop is how good it is. Iggle Pop is an arcade-esque-like style game that is clearly heavily inspired by Pac-Man. The basic gameplay premise consists of running around a maze, collecting objects, getting power-ups, and avoiding enemies. You know, the whole Pac-Man thing. There's a little more to it than that, but that's the main idea. I sure wouldn't blame anybody for thinking that it sounds exactly like Pac-Man and this game is a total ripoff. It isn't, but I don't blame you for thinking that. The game takes place in the land of Fuzz and follows a group of heroes sent to rescue all of the Iggles that were captured in bubble prisons by the mysterious and evil Zoogs. Here's where the game majorly differs from Pac-Man. Instead of just collecting a bunch of dots, the Iggles that you collect follow you around. Your goal to finish each level is to bring them to their home teleporter pad thingy. There are 4 different colored Iggles and you have to take them to their corresponding color pad to send them home. If one of the Zoogs touch an Iggle on your chain, it will get recaptured and you have to collect it again. Part of the challenge comes from scoring combos. If you want to get the highest score and get a platinum medal for a level, you have to get all the combos. That means each Iggle of the same color needs to be sent home together all at once. Obviously, you don't have to do that. It's completely optional and only for fun and a sense of accomplishment.
What do I win? Nothing! Now get out!
But I do enjoy getting that sweet platinum medal. Now, if you know a lot about PopCap, you may notice these little fellers look a lot like chuzzles. It's worth noting considering the bonus stage calls them fuzzles, which is likely a mistake. Sounds to me like they were planning on calling them fuzzles before changing it at the last minute. It isn't exactly clear why they changed this, most likely due to Chuzzle releasing around that time and PopCap wanting to reduce brand confusion, but it also isn't clear why the names were so similar in the first place. Playing as either Fizzy, a brave young Iggle eager to help, or his sister Dizzy, a headstrong Iggle who is probably more eager to help since Fizzy only wants to help because the Zoogs cancelled his favorite TV show, we meet Dr. Iggle on his flying airship. Dr. Iggle, which is a very creative name by the way, that's like somebody being named Dr. Human. Doc gives us the rundown on what's going on and sends us out to save the Iggles. Our journey begins in the Hedge Mazes. It acts mostly as a tutorial world and it's really easy. This is where you learn the basic game mechanics and meet your first 2 enemies. The first 2 enemies you meet are simple. This purple cloud Zoog seems to just wander around the map aimlessly. It's mostly random, I believe, but I'm pretty sure when you get close enough they vaguely move in your general direction somewhat. Almost like they're really trying to follow you, but they need glasses or something. The second Zoog you meet is this cloak guy. He's a bit more aggressive than the purple cloud and will actively seek you out at most times. He's not the most aggressive enemy in the game or anything, and early on he seems kinda stupid actually, but he's less random than the cloud guy. Neither are really supposed to change direction for no reason, and they rarely do, but every so often they'll pull one of these and just turn around for no reason. It makes me want to drive the PopCap and protest a 20-year-old game that nobody there has even heard of, because everyone who worked on that game is either retired or too old to remember what they ate for breakfast.
Iggle Pop, I haven't heard that name in 20 years.
After level 4, you learn about 2 new mechanics, the bonus letters and chain bonus pads. Bonus letters are how you earn extra lives. Every so often a bubble will appear in the maze with a letter in it, and wander around the map until it disappears or until you catch it. If you get all the letters in the word Iggle, you get an extra life. Extra lives are pretty much useless in this game though, because if you do end up running out, you can continue the game for 5,000 points, which sounds like a big number, but points are very easy to come by, so I wouldn't worry your pretty little head about it. Chain bonus pads, on the other hand, are kind of important. If you want platinum medals at least, you'll find there's a lot about this game that really wants you to go for the platinum medals. Some power-ups are even specifically made to earn you more points. Chain bonus pads are pads in the maze that activate when you have enough Iggles in your chain. If you have enough, when you touch one, it sends a bunch of shiny gems randomly across the maze for you to collect. Chain bonus pads are optional for completing a level, but they aren't optional for the platinum medal. They don't tell you this, but if you want the platinum medal, you do have to get the gems, which is fine, but they really should tell you. Now that we're nearing the end of Chapter 1, we unlock our first real power-up. This power-up is called Auto Sort. As its name suggests, it automatically sorts the Iggles in your chain by color, and it solely exists to earn you points. It's a good power-up, but yeah, it's practically useless if you don't care about score. Honestly, I kinda understand it. Pac-Man did the same thing with fruits and stuff that spawned in the maze, but at least those had the purpose of earning you extra lives. Score doesn't exactly matter in this game at all. That's not to say that I don't enjoy getting the medals, because I do. That's where most of the fun comes from me. But from an objective perspective, I could easily understand somebody finding it completely pointless, because in all honesty, and from a gameplay point of view, it is. Before Chapter 1 is over, we have one more thing to do, the bonus level. There's not much to say about the bonus levels actually. You get one at the end of every chapter and they're kind of pointless for the most part. They don't count as levels, so the medals don't matter. They're just mostly there for fun, which I'm perfectly fine with. It's a breath of fresh air to not be chased around, and all you really have to do is look out for the bombs and look out for secret walls. Secret walls are exclusive to bonus levels, and they're just walls that you can walk through. You can notice them by checking if the wall doesn't have any fauna or decorations. Bomb Iggles will be placed randomly in bonus levels. You don't have to remember their location because they'll blink on and off every couple seconds. Bonus levels will also hide an extra life somewhere in the Iggles, so that's another plus, but really that doesn't matter a whole lot either since, like I said earlier, game overs don't really matter. On to Chapter 2, the Ice Mountain. This is where the game really starts, and you earn your first actually helpful power-up, the Zoog Freezer. It's not hard to figure out what this one does, but just in case you're having trouble, it freezes Zoogs. For about 8 seconds, all the Zoogs on screen will be frozen solid and completely harmless. After that, you meet the third enemy, the Guard Zoog. The Guard Zoog patrols a set area and just kinda goes back and forth or in a circle. They never change patterns and are not all that much of a threat if I'm being honest. Most of the difficulty from Guard Zoogs comes from either patience or working around other Zoog types. The last thing Chapter 2 introduces is the Zap Balloon. This one's basically the power pellet from Pac-Man. It makes you and your Iggle chain invincible for 10 seconds, and if you touch an enemy, they die. The enemies will also run away from you as well. Any enemies you kill will start to respawn in a couple of seconds after the power-up ends, and that's pretty much it for Chapter 2. Chapter 3 takes place on Doc's airship, which has been taken over by Zoogs. You know, as a kid, I never really realized that this was Doc's ship, because the ship in the game looks nothing like a ship when you're talking to him. And I also never really read the dialogues, so I kind of just never put the pieces together. I just kind of thought it was some random airship the Zoogs owned. Anyway, while there aren't any new power-ups, there are some new enemies. First up, we got this bubble-blowing double baby over here. He's not a major threat, mostly just kind of moving in a straight line, then stopping to blow a bubble every once in a while. Getting caught isn't a big deal because it'll spawn a 1-up where you died and you can collect it to get your life back. In all honesty, he's really the most forgiving enemy in the game. In contrast to that, the next enemy is probably the most annoying enemy in the game. The bomb launcher occasionally shoots bombs at you from anywhere on the map. He sits out of bounds so you can't kill him, but he can be frozen by the Zoog Freezer. Something good about this enemy is that if a bomb hits another enemy, they'll die, which doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's pretty funny. It's actually really easy to avoid his shots. The bombs are slow moving and give you plenty of time to get out of the way, but what he can easily hit is your Iggle chain. They don't move quite as fast as you, and the bigger the chain is, the easier it is for him to hit it. Especially if you and your Iggles are grouped together and you see that bomb coming and you just know your Iggles are about to go flying. Dashing helps. Did I forget to mention there's a dash in this game? Yeah, you have a dash meter with 5 charges that slowly recharges a bar every 5 seconds or so. That's a pretty important part of the game that'll get you out of some tight spots that I completely forgot to mention until now. So, oops. Next enemy is this drill enemy. An interesting enemy, but a forgettable one. All they do is walk forward, drill underground, and then a few seconds later they pop up somewhere random in the maze. Not a particularly threatening enemy, since they're random, they'll mostly just pop up nowhere near you, and they just tend to kind of stay out of the way for the most part. Every so often they'll pop out in the middle of your Iggle chain, so yeah, a big fan of when that happens. It's pretty much impossible to predict where they're going to end up resurfacing, so it's mostly just luck. Last new enemy in Chapter 3 is the Armored Zoog. The Armored Zoog is the same as a regular Purple Cloud Zoog, except he can't be zapped by the Zap Balloon. He can still be frozen, though. He isn't a huge threat, especially since if you can't kill him with the Zap Balloon, you're still invincible during the Zap Balloon, which maybe kinda a little negates the point of his gimmick. Not really, since not being able to kill him means he doesn't have to respawn, but respawn times for enemies don't take that long anyways. And with that, we've cleared Doc's ship of all the Zoogs and we're on to Chapter 4. But to thank us, Dr. Iggle is giving us a brand new power-up. The power-up you've probably all been waiting for. The Iggle Pop. That's right, the Iggle Pop is a real power-up. We finally got it after only 40 levels in. The game's namesake, the Iggle Pop. The Iggle Pop power-up is a very powerful and convenient power-up, but it doesn't show up often because of just how easy it would make the game. All the Iggle Pop really does is immediately give you every Iggle of a specific color. For example, if you collect a green Iggle Pop power-up, all the green Iggles currently trapped will be set free and added to your chain. It's very useful, but it does make the game pretty easy, so they tend to use it sparingly. Dr. Iggle informs us that he has located Grandmaster Zoog's evil base, but to get there, we need to go through the Dusty Valley because, you know, it would be way too easy to just fly us there in your flying airship. Fuck you, Dr. Iggle. Anyway, we begin our trek through the desert and eventually run into the Super Zoog. This new enemy is made of pure fire and it's relentless. The Super Zoog never seems to stop following you, and because he's made of fire, he can't be frozen. That doesn't mean the Zoog Freezer is completely useless though. Getting one will stop a Super Zoog for about a second or two. So it's not as useless as the Zap Balloon is to the Armored Zoog. Around the halfway point of the Dusty Valley, we learn a new mechanic, the warp holes. The warp holes around the map will teleport you instantly from one hole to another. It works similar to the warp sections in Pac-Man where you could enter one side of the screen and come out at the other side, except warp holes can be anywhere in the map. Before we finish the desert, Nut gives us our 5th and final power-up, Shrink. Shrink groups all the Iggles in your chain together, making it much smaller and harder for enemies to capture your Iggles. Shrink is a pretty useful power-up, especially for keeping your Iggles safe, and it works especially well against bomb launchers. Chapter 4 is over, and we're finally onto the Crystal Caves to confront Grandmaster Zoog, the evil bad guy behind everything. Crystal Caverns isn't too ridiculously hard, but it is harder than the levels before it, and they were always my favorite, if only for how it looks. I really like the colorful crystals, and the cave background always just looks so cool to me. The growing crystals and these weird glowy stalagmite things always gave off this weird, mysterious vibe to it that I always really liked. I haven't really talked much about the game's art style much in this video, mostly just because I've been waiting for later to talk about things like that, but I just wanted to point out how much I like these levels and how they look since we're finally here in this section. Anyway, you don't unlock anything new until Chapter 5. Most of it is bringing together everything from the previous chapters. Some harder versions of previous maze layouts even return with extra enemies and power-ups. It does really feel like the culmination of your entire journey so far. To get to the Grandmaster Zoog, we fight our way through the cavern, saving Iggles along the way. And when we finally reach the end, we discover he's not here at all, actually. Yeah, it turns out he just left. Luckily, we at least learn why he's trapping the Iggles in bubbles. Turns out the bubbles actually drain the Iggles' life forces, and he's using their energy to make himself more powerful. So by saving the Iggles, we're actively hurting him. Unfortunately, he's been busy, and we have more Iggles to save before they'll actually let us fight him. Which leads us to the next 4 chapters and the last 30 levels of the game. There isn't really much to say about these levels, so I'll try to keep it brief. On our journey home, we go back through the places that we've already been and free the remaining Iggles. These are the most intense levels yet, but I still wouldn't consider the game hard. I mean, just look at these platinum medals. This is a PopCap game at the end of the day, so the difficulty never really goes beyond moderately casual. But it is noticeably harder than the first half of the game, even if that isn't really saying much. That being said, there were a couple levels that kicked my ass pretty hard, mainly 86 and 100. Level 86 is the worst level in the game, and it took me almost half an hour to platinum medal it. It's a complete standout from the rest in how bad it is. And for your amusement, just because I love you guys so much, Here's a 25-minute time-lapse of me trying and failing many times to get a platinum medal at this god-awful level. After beating chapters 4 through 9, we end up back home, and Doc brings us onto the ship one last time, where he congratulates us on saving all the Iggles. But of course, there's one more teensy tiny problem we haven't quite solved just yet. In case you forgot, there is a bad guy. And lucky for us, the Grandmaster Zoog is finally weak enough to take head on. Unlucky for us, he's still pretty powerful, and Doc says his inventions, like the Zap Balloon, won't hurt him at all. But lucky for us, old Zoogie went a little overboard and put too many enemies in the maze, and Doc says Zoog's bomb launchers will probably do the job. Oh yeah, and Doc actually does take us directly to the Crystal Caverns this time. Like, without us having to trek through a dangerous valley. So yeah, fuck you, Dr. Iggle. Anyway, we make it to Crystal Caverns to face off against Grandmaster Zoog, and against a fair amount of odds, after an epic battle, we blew him up and killed him. And yeah, the game just kinda ends there. Doc doesn't congratulate us or anything. We don't get any ending screen or thanking us for killing Iggle Hitler. It just takes us to a score submission screen where we can post our score and compare it to people from all around the world. Oh, well, that's okay, because we know we saved the Iggles and brought peace to the land, and I'm pretty sure that's what's really important. I think. And that's the end of Adventure Mode. We saved the day and killed the Grandmaster, and everyone's happy, and the Zoogs are gone, and the Iggles are safe in the end. Except, no it's not, because I just lied to you, and there's actually more. At this point in the game, depending on how many medals you've earned, you should have unlocked some things by now, those being new characters, as well as Retro Mode, which I'll talk about more in depth in a minute. But the new characters are Boz, Rizzo, no not the rat, and Dr. Iggle himself in his super fast hover chair. All these characters are increasingly faster and are labeled as harder difficulties, but honestly, from what I've played of their respective modes, the faster characters generally feel easier. So I don't really know what the hell they were thinking with that one. In some situations I could see them being harder. I think the more chaotic levels like the final boss are harder, but most levels are way easier with fast characters. I mean, look at this level I did with Dr. Iggle. He's so fast that I finished the level before the bomb launcher could even fire once. I have noticed that it seems the enemies also go faster, so maybe that's what they meant by harder difficulties, but you still go a lot faster than the enemies, so that doesn't make a huge difference. Other than that, the new characters have unique dialogue when talking to Dr. Iggle in his airship, except Doc, because he can't really talk to himself. He just doesn't have airship cutscenes. Also, look out for Boz. I don't know how Iggles age or how old Dizzy and Boz are, but it seems like Boz is old and Dizzy is pretty young. It's implied Boz has a thing for Dizzy, so I don't know if he's some kind of groomer or something, but just be careful, man. Just watch out for him. Anyway, moving on. Retro Mode, the second campaign. This is probably what you've been wanting this whole time.
That's what we've been waiting for!
Instead of collecting a chain of Iggles that follow you to bring home, you collect baby Iggles, as if they were the dots in Pac-Man. If you have any doubts at all that this is supposed to be Pac-Man mode, Level 4 of Retro Mode is a direct reference to Pac-Man, being a replica of the original maze, even having zap balloons in the corners like power pellets. Retro Mode also has a chain system like Adventure Mode. If you collect multiple Iggles of the same color in a row, you keep a score chain that gives you extra points. Of course, most of the power-ups are useless in this mode and aren't present. Auto Sort, Iggle Pop, and Shrink wouldn't do anything because you don't have a chain, and the Iggles you collect get sent to Doc immediately. There are only 5 chapters in Retro Mode and only 52 levels, so it's only about half the length of Adventure Mode. It's also a tad bit easier, mostly because you don't have to maintain a chain and worry about your Iggles getting captured. It's probably because I didn't really go for the platinum medals like I did with adventure mode. I'm sure if I had I would say it wasn't easier, but I just didn't feel as motivated to. And even if I didn't try to get all the platinum medals, I still ended up getting mostly platinum medals without too much effort, so I still consider it easy. Since retro mode is fairly short and doesn't introduce things as much as adventure mode, considering you need to play a significant chunk of adventure mode in order to even unlock retro mode, so chances are you've seen all of these things before going into it. I won't be going into detail with retro mode's individual chapters, but I'll briefly touch on the story. Although there's not as much to talk about because the only real story we get is at the beginning when Doc sends us on our adventure. Retro mode starts with Doc bringing us on the ship and telling us the bad news. The Zoogs have captured all the baby Iggles and it's up to us to save them. Kidnapping thousands of babies is probably a new low for the Zoogs. Trapping Iggles in life-stealing bubbles to sustain your evil master is one thing, but the Grandmaster is dead now, so they're just kidnapping babies for the love of the game at this point. No motivation, no nothing, just stealing kids for fun. And here I was thinking Boz was creepy. Also, Iggles having babies implies an Iggle reproduction process, and that and Boz having a thing for Dizzy means there's probably Iggle sex. And I don't want to think about that, so I'm moving on. Doc sends us off, and that's actually the last we ever see of him. I believe he's presumed dead. Well, not officially, but he hasn't been seen since 2006, and he was pretty old. So I think it's safe to assume he's probably pushing up daisies at this point. We begin at the Hez Maze, of course, and they never outright explain that retro mode takes place after adventure mode, but chapter 1 of retro mode is called a new quest, so I'm pretty sure that it does. We save all the babies in the hedge mazes and all the babies on the mountain, and now we're back on Doc's ship. We've beaten these guys off the ship like 3 times now. How does he keep letting them get back on? We need to get him some kind of locks or something. Doc is presumably still alive at this point, but I honestly think eventually it was one of the Zoogs on his ship that killed him. He keeps letting them on for some reason. He's like old and senile. He keeps forgetting that they're evil. But we get all the Zoogs off the ship for the 100th time, and we make our way through the valley again, to the Crystal Caverns again. We work our way through the caverns and finally save the rest of the baby Iggles and beat retro mode. Funnily enough, we actually do get a congratulations screen at the end this time that thanks us for saving all the Iggles instead of it taking us directly to a score submission screen. So, retro mode. Retro mode is good. It's not as good as adventure mode and can start to feel samey after a while with only 2 power-ups. It being 52 levels helped, but if it went on for another 50 levels, I might have tapped out early. It's still fun though, and if you went into the game expecting the Pac-Man experience, this is probably the mode that you're looking for, and you'll probably get more out of it than I did. There are many things to enjoy about Iggle Pop, from its charming storybook art style to its unique and memorable soundtrack. Its dynamic and unique mazes speak to its originality. Despite being heavily inspired by Pac-Man, the game is mostly subtle about its Pac-Man inspirations, especially with adventure mode, as it plays completely different from any Pac-Man game. Iggle Pop does a fantastic job at being its own distinct game without trying way too hard to be the next Pac-Man. Even retro mode, being a much more traditional Pac-Man clone, adds its own twist and feels nothing like a blatant knockoff. Along with the art style, music, gameplay, unique power-ups, and enemies, it really does feel like PopCap and Sprout were trying to make a more modernized Pac-Man title. And I honestly think they succeeded. If Namco made a new traditional Pac-Man game, it would probably feel a lot like Iggle Pop, or at least if they made one 20 years ago. Iggle Pop does something truly unique with the formula and makes for a great experience, not only for Pac-Man fans, but for PopCap fans, and honestly any fans of retro games in general, whether they be 80s arcade classics or early 2000s PC games. If you do want to play Iggle Pop after watching this video, you can pick it up for $5 on Steam, and it typically goes on sale for $1. Thank you for watching, and go play Iggle Pop. Also, don't let Boz play retro mode. Keep him away from those kids, bro.